the Human Loop podcast, powered by Atherio. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Human Loop podcast. I am your host, Ben Stockin. I'm the founder and CEO of Atherio, and I'm joined today by a really good friend of mine, Mizan Rahman, who is the co-founder of Emerge IQ. Miz, how you doing?
I'm great, thanks, Ben. Thank you so much for the invitation and opportunity to talk with you about some of the interesting things that's happening in AI and you know the world that we're embarking on now.
Yeah, no worries. And look, you've got a really interesting background. Like we've known each other for, I want to say, like
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, there we go. We'll go with 3 years. We've known each other for 3 years, so I know a lot about your background and pedigree in the world of AI. Pedigree, you like that, didn't you?
Vintage
pedigree in the world of AI. So, like, you're an OG. Like, and I would coin anyone who's like pre ChatGPT.
Yeah,
everyone was like AI was ChatGPT, like back end of 22, November 22, something like that. But actually, like, you've been in AI for a lot longer than that. And you also started off in the world of finance as a banker. Pronounced that right, didn't I? Banker.
Yeah.
So look, let's get straight into it. Like we'll put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people can stalk you, and please do connect with Miz when, not if, when something he says resonates with you in this conversation. Miz, first things first, right? The whole point of the Human Loop is for us to decode the systems behind human performance and explore how AI is shaping the way modern leaders operate. You are, although you're an OG, you're a modern operator. Like, you're running a business. You've got this really interesting juxtaposition where you're running a business and you're also helping other people implement AI into their organizations as well. So, like, what's one of the I guess one big idea that you're wrestling with or exploring right now in that unique position you've got?
So here's an example. We because we're a small organization and because of the ties we have as an OG, and then for full transparency, it's really my co-founders on the AI, the data science side, who are the OGs.
Okay.
I'm a technologist, and that has brought me into the AI world since I left the trading floor now 8 years ago, and because one of them is actually an associate professor, we hope soon to be professor in a specific arm of computer science called affective computing, and I won't go into the lower levels of what that is. It really opened my imagination to where get this type of technology and where it can really help. So for big ideas, we're really lucky to be small and have this academic link, so that we can take a lot of the stuff that's actually being researched, dare I say, even years ahead of being applied, and actually start, tinkering around and seeing what happens. So for us, we're now working on projects to try and put into play things that we imagine should be like 3 or 4 years ahead in the future. So an example is, pre ChatGPT at OpenAI, and OpenAI back in 14, 15, took them some years to, of course, get to where they are. But we were doing our own versions of kind of language model understanding and GPT research. We did projects with a legal company who wanted to do essentially an LLM type of situation, but it was before anyone had really done it, and then we were there. So the ones that we're looking at right now are, dare I say it, entire human synthesis type of situations. This is about the machine having a seamless relationship with the human. We're working on a project, and this is one idea that came on the back of a dance detection algorithm that we trained and deployed a few years ago, which fast forward has become a behavioral analysis tool. But it's one thing to understand behaviors and to put some context. We want to put this tool into public spaces, and so we can see the lay of the land, and people may be perturbed with that, but it's entirely GDPR compliant. We're very respectful around that. But the idea here is that now with the advances of AI, we can put a more human layer of understanding and dialogue. So with the work with LLMs and some other there's a series of LMs, like language model type of coming out, from audio to video to this to that. It's not all just about large language models. You can now have an entirely human dialogue with a machine, as I'm sure you're all familiar with the ChatGPT and the other GPTs out there, Gemini and Cloud and all the other, and all that stuff. But we are now putting that layer onto like other real world situations. And in this case, where we've got this behavioral analytics kind of surveillance situation, which is monitoring antisocial behaviors. So that dance detector, which was detecting social behaviors and really fun behaviors, we realized could be kind of pivoted to look at antisocial, but we can now talk to it. So we have examples of me asking the AI, oh, can you give me a status of the situation in this specific area? It will then query, it will turn the camera on and it will look around and it will start telling us exactly, what's going on in real time. So that's really quite good, because it's allowing, it gives us the ability to connect and be informed around situations that the humans just haven't got enough kind of bandwidth themselves to be able to monitor. Things like that. So we're looking to deploy that like in months.
Wow.
And things like that. So we've got a lot of flexibility, and these are like, we think big, and hopefully we reach for the stars. We land on the moon.
Yeah.
That's a question.
You've given me so much, and you've given our listeners and viewers so much to go on there. There's a phrase that I need to come back to, and I think I can remember it. I've got quite a short attention span, but bear with me. Did you say human synthesis? Yeah,
it's you're basically trying to replicate synthesize a human kind of behaviors and simulate a human kind of engagement. It could be conversational, it could be visual, it could be the combination of both. In this case, the use case that I've just mentioned with you, it's all conversational.
Yeah,
and it's now with the leaps and bounds of companies such as 11 Labs providing really great voice connectivity services, of course Whisper with the OpenAI, and you can have a human synthesized kind of situation, a computer having conversations with you, and you often wouldn't even know it's an AI now. The other day I was at home with my mother, and I was just talking to my ChatGPT, and she walked in and she was like, "Oh, who were you speaking with?"
Nice.
She thought I was in a meeting.
Nice.
Oh, okay. And it was still on. And then my mother tongue is Bengali. My parents are Bangladeshi. I then asked GPT to speak to my mother in Bengali, and it started speaking to my mother in Bengali, and she was entirely freaked out by it. She was.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but yeah.
I can imagine. I think
Turing test kind of passed on all fronts with her anyway.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar about the Turing test, it's really just.
Yeah, I've got a challenge with 11 Labs are obviously absolutely flying, and what they're doing is incredible. I've got a challenge that I experienced this week, all right, with voice synthesized, voice synthesis. Is that right? Sounds right. Voice synthesis. So I listened to the Diary of a CEO podcast, listen to it, watch it. Stephen Bartlett, incredible. I was then listening to one of the Flight Story best bits, and it was an episode that basically took the best bits of his interview with Richard Branson, and then was playing out Richard Branson's kind of biography, essentially. And I was listening to it in the car, and I listened to a lot of Stephen Bartlett's podcasts in the car when I'm driving. I put this on, and I immediately smelt a rat. And I listened to it, and I thought, this sounds like Stephen Bartlett. The intonation is very, very close, but it's a bit too good. It's a bit too polished. You're missing some of his human rawness, and I had to turn it off. I couldn't listen to it, even though I wanted to go back over that amazing biography of Richard Branson, incredible entrepreneur, great human. I actually switched it back over onto Audible and went back to the Richard Branson book and started again, because I had that dissonance where I was like, this isn't Stephen Bartlett, and I don't think it is Stephen Bartlett. I think it's.
Do you know if it was or not?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't think it is, because I know he's played previously with some fully AI generated podcasts, etc. I think some of the stats I heard was that actually one of his AI generated podcasts got better listens than him. However,
scary.
I encourage you go check it out. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
I encourage everyone else to go and check it out as well.
Yeah,
I just had a bit of ickiness. I had this ickiness. So coming back to the human loop bit, you're talking about, a great use case where you can interface with an application or a suite of applications, and you've got a behavioral detection, use case there for antisocial behavior. I think the dance bit we need to talk a bit more about in a minute, because that sounds super cool as well. But I think we need to be really careful, and this comes back to the human loop bit, about what bits in how we lead and use technology and people in our use cases are the right shovels, and which are just applying AI for AI's sake.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess in response to that, I'm afraid Pandora's box is just been blown open in the last few years. So there is two schools of the kind of AI ethics that I think you're alluding to, right? This is where how far down this human synthesis situation do we allow the AI to suddenly, get involved in, to the point that you're thinking, oh my God, it's not real anymore. It doesn't feel authentic, right? So in the case of things, I think through time there will be a filtering process. I actually was at an AI event last night, and I met the founders of an AI company called Ampersand, who are a kind of a middleware type of AI situations connecting CRMs and a whole lot of kind of things that you can do to allow automations and things like that. And we were talking about a similar question, where is this going to stop? Where does the ickiness, are we going to be able to control this ickiness? And Ion, who's one of the founders, he was also asked about, okay, is this linked? Is there some sort of bubble that will burst so that we know what is the true kind of application of AI? Mm-hmm. And we talked about how ultimately we think that it's just being applied everywhere, and you're going to get this. Oh God, that's just bad. You can see obvious AI Gen AI pictures. Mm-hmm. It's they're really great, they're amazing, but to the trained eyes, you can think that's just too perfect. Yeah. And so it's filtering. So over time, and then that's going to go people get bored of that, or however it is, and then it will filter out to the actual true application and use cases that we believe this technology should really kind of, latch onto.
Yeah.
But now everyone's just going wild. It's insane. Like everywhere I go, actually, I took pleasure in talking about property yesterday, because we weren't talking the buildings trade. Builders on site aren't using AI because you can't plaster with AI and stuff like that. And we're like, okay, it's nice talking about something which isn't right now.
You say that, but I know some fantastic, what would they be, like prop tech businesses, I guess. Prop tech, build tech. We're going to go for build tech.
I'm actually.
We'll go build tech. So I know one fantastic build tech business, which is an application that manages like everything that happens on a site.
Oh.
Like everything that happens on a site, from like deliveries to people checking in for shifts, health and safety protocols, etc. And that is an AI native business on a site.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I agree. Like your typical, what happens in building, you could be like, well, what happens in like a sub, I don't know, X spend building environment project probably is going to be a laggard in terms of being able to access that sort of tool. But where you've got like, multi-million pounds, regeneration projects, etc., I think just because of the level of health and safety and compliance, that actually is augmenting in a really valuable way. AI is augmenting in a really valuable way how quickly, effectively, efficiently, and safely people can do a very, very dangerous job.
Well, it's actually, so I completely agree. So I'm not suggesting that it's untouched, but, that the guy who's plastering in one of those rooms that they built in this block of flats or something isn't probably not privy to the upstream organization of that build project. But you do make it, you do confirm that even the buildings trade now are kind of jumping onto this kind of technology. We've spoken to some building companies as well, actually, who are interested in doing more efficient ways of quantity surveying and things like that, and automating and linking them all together. Not that dissimilar to the platform that you're explaining. So we are by some degree of separation being affected by this tech.
Okay. And I think I'm going to stick with the ickiness way of describing AI that is inappropriately used or just doesn't work. And I think what you say is really important about the authenticity. And AI generated images, like, everyone could create their action figure. Was it 9 months ago or something, whatever it was, there was that trend. Everyone could create their own packaged up action figure. And I think what's really interesting from a human loop perspective is we've got to keep the humans in the loop, and it's how do we manage that dynamic? And I think when that dynamic goes wrong, goes too far for the wrong use cases, that's when we can have like ickiness, or we lose that collaboration that you get from human to human.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree. Right now, like all of the products that we have developed are underpinned by humans in the loop, right? But there isn't a single platform or service that we have touched or built or consulted on which we don't ensure has that human connectivity. It just is right now. And also there's a trust situation that we're making sure that is firmly kind of resolved in these situations. I don't know. It's too soon to have an entirely autonomous kind of AI and a trustworthy, I guess, output that you right now. Like, so that could even be like the image or a sound or something. I don't know, but reminding yourselves that these are tools, and right now they are just machines, computers, extremely well processed formulas, really, that are giving us these outputs. once you have that understanding, and you continue to have a human linked into that system process, we're in a safe place. It's perhaps in, let's look at the Black Mirror kind of situation,
Yeah.
the ickiness. We don't, and people have asked me, what do you think about the future, and what's it going to happen? I'm like, I just don't have a crystal ball, right? Who knew? Like, we know it's going to happen. That is, in my opinion, honestly, like, if you go back to the 60s or whenever do you remember Star Trek, the TV series?
I do. I'm old enough. Yeah.
And this and that. Back then, this was science fiction. And I remember listening to something or reading something where they had an article about all of the tech that Star Trek was using, and then just ticking it off, going, we've developed it. Apart from the teleportation thing, right? But at this moment in time, like, we are in a very, hopefully a safe space, because it's not that has advanced to say artificial general intelligence, which I'm sure people are familiar with. Demis from DeepMind, his vision to create this. I mean, that's gone a little bit quiet, I would say, recently, because, like, if you go back to the beginning of, like, 25, it was like, it's going to happen this year. We'll need another hour to talk about this.
Okay. No, I'm going to move aside. So we've done some like some crystal ball gazing a bit, but actually let's anchor in here and now. And you've talked about, like, Emerge IQ and some of the really exciting projects that you've got on. I know you've talked as much as you probably can about that, so I'm not going to press you. Yeah. Now let's look at you. All right, let's turn the spotlight onto Miz. All right, so, like, how is AI now in your business, or in the businesses that you're involved in? How is AI, like, transforming how leadership and your workplace is operating, or is it not yet?
It depends on the organization. So, in our experience, there's still a huge delta between organization, in the adoption of it, and change and reframing the way leadership thinks. My co-founder and the CEO of our organization is actually working on a project at the moment where we're speaking to board level organizations at board level, who are, these organizations are like 20, 30, 40, very old, well-established organizations, thousands of employees globally, blah, 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 blah. And it's in, their process is entirely instilled, right? And it's uncanny that at this day and age, with this technology, they're still maybe 20 years behind, because it's really hard, once you've built a kind of a vascular network of an organization, to change things. And this isn't even about AI. This is about digital transformation. It's really it's insane how many companies are still using very old, archaic kind of processes, and now they're worrying. Now it's like, only because the smaller organizations, the more lean, the more, they're getting kind of like gazumped by smaller companies who can come in to their clients. So this organization, not this one specifically, but they're a big organization. I can use banking as an example, right? Like the trading systems that we used to use, and it's not a bad thing, I guess. Very hard to affect change in the leadership's thinking because of regulation and because of the risks involved and people's money and livelihoods, especially after the whole 2008 incidents and thereafter. And the magnitude of risk averseness there is blocking potentially the adoption of novel technology, and trading floors like I used to work on they have the best technologists and the best academics and all this in their space to build it. And sometimes their hands are tied. So the leadership gets stuck in that mindset because of certain, and, having to get the bottom line and keep your shareholders happy and blah, blah, blah. But then in parallel, you've got these smaller organizations, these kind of neobanks and this and that. This is coming in because we're smaller. They've kind of like managed to navigate around regulations and stuff like that, and then they're just like, let's just go for it.
Yeah,
there's no fear, right?
So it's almost like I love the way you've articulated.
And their way of thinking is entirely different, and then then the leadership on the other side of, in my experience, is starting to wake up and think, right, we really need to, we need to start changing the way we think, shifting the organization kind of structures and look at different things, target operating models, technology models, blah, 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 blah. All of it gets kind of back to the drawing board. Yeah,
it's interesting. And you talk about like the finance sector. You've then got an outlier like JP Morgan.
Actually.
Who have invested like $2 billion and have already seen ROI. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. And I would say, like, coming back to your point, so the first bit, which I love the way you articulated, is you've got like these, the bigger organizations, they're like cruise ships, aren't they? Like, they're like cruise ships. Then you layer over regulation, etc. It's like, we've just nailed this process after 20 years. So actually it's digital transformation, but it's like, do we do digital and then agentic, or can we do wham bam and slam it all together and do it in a one-er? And people don't like change. No one likes change, but change is happening around those organizations so fast that actually by the time they've probably gone up through all of the tiers of sign off and business cases and approval, actually the business case probably isn't relevant anymore, because it might take 6 to 9 to 12 months to get to like a PLC board, for example, on something like this. Whereas you've got these other organizations you described that I'm going to call them like the SuperAdapters, because they can pivot on a founder's decision, can't they? It's like, hang on, the world has changed. There's an opportunity here. We can deploy our capital that we've raised really quickly because everyone's invested in AI.
It's a bit like Atherio, the way the organizations.
Well, I guess kind of,
as the world very quickly.
Thank you very much for bringing my new business into the pod.
Super quick.
So like Atherio, it is like an example of a problem in the leadership development space.
And that wasn't a planted question, by the way. That wasn't a pre-planted.
It wasn't a planted question. No.
I just think it's a good use case.
I've just put Atherio around the screen enough to have to mention it. But yeah. So great example. Let me mirror that example. I spend my time speaking to HR directors, CEOs and MDs of the upper side of SME, like middle kind of growing organizations, to understand what they're doing to develop the leaders and managers within their organizations to help them thrive and grow as a business. I love it, but that's what I get to do for a living. It's fantastic. And one of the businesses, you mentioned a law firm early on, was like an early adopter in like some language model stuff. And that got my attention, because the conversation I had in March this year was sat down with an HR director for 1,000-person law firm. All right, 1,000-person law firm. And I was asking her, that they want to invest in some leadership development, management training for their partner group. And I asked her normal questions, diagnosis, etc. And then we got to the end of that part of the conversation. And I was beginning to think about Atherio, and I wanted to find out the landscape of AI in organizations. So I just asked her one question. I was like, at the moment, like, what's your approach or strategy or even view on AI in your organization? And her answer was quite like telling and chilling at the time. It was, Ben, we're probably 18 months away from even looking at AI tools within our organization. And they just spent tens of thousands of pounds on procuring and building a learning management system. that I would argue we're December now, same year. I'd argue that LMS provider is probably not going to go anywhere in the next few years, because LMSs are, great big catalogs of information that are delivered to people when someone tells them it's time. And actually, if you look at how people are using ChatGPT, Claude, etc., in the flow of their work day to day, an LMS as a piece of software for me is like, it's not where I would be, put it that way. But I think it echoes that point you made, that those bigger, they're not massive, but bigger organizations, if they're not really leaning into how to lead in the loop, like forget the human loop, like the leadership loop, they're going to get left behind, and they're going to lose market share. They're going to lose their team members who will want to go to more forward-thinking organizations. And the last bit I'll say on this before I come back to you with another question, that's your warning, by the way, is I am seeing way more like head of AI enablement roles or AI enablement lead roles in organizations. People are moving from certain leadership roles into becoming an AI enablement lead. Are you seeing the same? Absolutely.
But then sometimes you wonder whether it's just it's badging someone up so they appear to be doing something about it. You don't know what's the inner workings of the larger organizations. And it's not really their fault. It's fantastic that they're doing that. They're empowering or a role to be able to look at this and see how this strategically will impact the organization. You can liken it to the role of a CTO back in the day, because when 20, 30, 40 years ago, when desktop computers and the technology function wasn't really a major organizational kind of responsibility, I believe, right? And but then, of course, that whilst the growth of technology had happened, then they had to adhere and realize that there's something that they have to do, and they've got the CTO function, and then suddenly these organizations have got global tech stacks, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, there's similar kind of situations happening in the AI world. So you're getting early now, and then hopefully you can put a strategy together, at least as your bare minimum, because to not pay attention to this is very, very, dare I say, ignorant. We all know what happened to Kodak and things like that. Come on, guys. So it's really great that they're acknowledging by creating these roles, doing that. It's about what they can do to essentially change an organization, or at least make sure that you can future-proof an organization from this point on.
Yeah. Kodak's an interesting one, isn't it? Because when that it's like warning story for any product-led business. I mean, they created the digital camera as well. I'm pretty sure
they had the patents.
They had the patent, didn't they,
for the digital camera?
Yeah, but didn't move. They didn't adapt. They weren't a super adapter.
It's just a real shame. Yeah, I don't think it's but that's going back to the leadership thinking and safe space and that's a different, at least in the financial sector, it's defendable because they have regulations and it's very hard to, they have to keep within the confines of making sure that their systems are robust and dare I say ethical, fair, but in photography. It's photography. It's technology. It's innovation. You missed the trick, guys.
Yeah, true. Oh, look,
and you owned the rights to this technology. It's insane.
Yeah, completely. I think there's on a similar topic. So we're talking now about leadership and leadership really understanding how AI can transform their organization and the roles of leaders. Like, where does your head of AI enablement sit? Like, do they sit alongside the CTO, underneath the CTO, COO, etc.? We could get into a whole conversation about where you put that person within your organizational structure and map. But there's one story that I will share with you, which I loved recently. So a friend of mine has a fantastic business. They teach sign language, right? So they teach sign language globally. It's got an application that teaches sign language globally. And when I say sign language, I think there are about 16 different sign languages globally. And he was talking about how they are implementing like an AI first mentality within their organization, and it was brilliant. And one of his kind of thought processes is everyone in the organization now needs to become a developer of some sort.
Interesting.
Everyone in the organization needs to or has the opportunity to become a developer.
And so, can you remind me what type of organization is it?
It's a tech business.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's a tech business. So they're direct to consumer. All right. So they're B2C tech business.
But even their HR function, they're saying there's a blanket kind of understanding that you should all be thinking like a techie.
Yeah, thinking like a techie. We're thinking like a developer. And actually, when you think about tools we've got like Replit, for example, like actually his philosophy with this is so like he is, you know, he can see the wave, the sets of waves coming. He's so far or like early on the wave, I think. But I can see it going this way. He wants people in his organization to observe their processes, their procedures, what they're doing, how they're serving customers, how they're doing marketing, how they're running HR, how they're running finance, and find the experiments and the use cases to think about how they can be the human in the loop, but begin to develop, like play with developing some potential, agentic ways to win. And he's already seen like dramatic savings in them building their own stuff. Like building their own stuff.
Absolutely. It's funny you should say that because the aforementioned one of the projects we're working on, and they are a testament. This client is a testament to awareness of the situation, and they kind of and there was another company we had a few years ago who did the same. These like global organizations. They went across all business lines, right? Just and essentially saying, where are the pain points? Where are the issues? What you guys are empowered to figure out how tech, I'm not even limiting it to AI, but of course now we have AI. How can you make this process more efficient? How can we get rid of monkeys off your back so that you can do more human in the loop more human things, right? Rather than but mundane kind of like, macro type of rinse and repeat kind of tasks and things like that. And we saw and observed as a result of all this kind of consulting period that they all had these ideas and they all had this, but they were never empowered to be able to act on them. Mm-hmm. And then, lo and behold, this organization really, honestly, it's really pleasing to see large organizations realizing that and saying, right, let's create a list of POCs, proof of concepts.
Okay, I was going to say, what the hell is a PO? Thank you.
It's a proof of concepts to understand whether your idea has legs, and they're now going to these. It could have just been an HR manager. It could have literally been someone in the canteen who X number of opportunities, and then they're putting a kind of a financial kind of priority on that to see, actually, if we did that, that's going to save us that much. And we did that with actually one of our Asia clients. We saved them significant overheads because we automated one part of their kind of process, and that was one. Yeah. So yes, it's really quite nice to know that organisations are approaching it like that.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of I said that the larger organisations are like cruise ships or tankers, takes them longer to turn. But actually, the beauty of being a larger organisation with more potential capacity, certainly more capital, to be able to run experiments and engage with a business like yours. Actually, that's their own like super adapter bit. They can afford to run those pilots across almost the kaleidoscope of their functional areas and work out which are the ones then to go all in on. Whereas your smaller super adapters, the smaller businesses, they've got to place some bets, haven't they? And then those bets, like, from an Atherio perspective, we're placing bets with our MVP and our pilot partners, and we've got to be so like tuned in on what's working and what's not, because like the risk reward ratio is very different in a small organization to a bigger organization.
Yeah, that's true. And we see that often, and that's where there are trade-offs, I think. And some with the smaller organizations, there are more risks because of that, because you make the wrong decision, you feel it. Whereas the larger ones tend to be like, okay, fine, we'll just that's just a throwaway opportunity, but fine, it was worth taking the risk. But like I think maybe shifting into the one common thing that people are learning around tech, and the opportunity to fail fast is universal. But if you do it quickly enough, hopefully you mitigate the risks that could impact your business and things like that, and just move on to the next kind of like opportunity to make sure that you've done it right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. And I think you're right, actually. In building our product, like building like a concept of Atherio for us, like actually that probably would have taken like months, really, to even get to like a wireframe demo that I could put in front of investors and pilot partners. Like, thank you, Replit. Like, it was $25 and 3 hours on a Saturday morning. Like, and then I get to go to customers and get some validation and some questions and iterate. So you're exactly right. That has leveled the playing field to a certain extent. I guess the opportunity for the bigger organizations is they can do that across, a lot of opportunities to aggregate up and compound those wins.
Absolutely.
And then the opportunity for the smaller organizations, they, as you said, like guerrilla tactics, we can kind of get to market super quick and catch people napping effectively from a product development perspective.
Yeah. A lot more agile, can just get in there and do a lot
roll
more.
Our sleeves up and get going. Miz, it's been fantastic speaking to you. I'm conscious that 40 odd minutes is just like gone like that. So I would love for you to leave our listeners and viewers with like where do you see the opportunity in the short term for businesses to make the most of this human loop concept? And just for everyone, I'm just going to define that for everyone. I'll have to do this every episode. Like human loop, it's the concept that we've got this intersection between humans within our organizations, carrying out processes, tasks, leading people, empowering people, working with customers. And then you've got the loop is the opportunity we have of technology and AI-enabled technology today, the benefits we can get of those two fusing together. So Miz, the question for you is, in the short term, if you for organizations, where's the benefit of the human loop today?
I'm hesitating because I want to give you a good response, but it's actually the aforementioned discussed point that all organizations will benefit, like all of them. So it's about acting on that, empower it, go out there and tell your staff, don't be afraid to look at these tools. Go ahead and do it. There's no harm there. Of course, you can have like IP things. Don't be using GPT or whatever. Don't be posting out kind of sensitive stuff in there, but bring us ideas. Let's bring the human loop situation to the organization, and you guys surface to the leaders of the organization's opportunities. I think that's kind of, I think everyone could do it. It doesn't matter what size organization. You talk about Replit. We've got one of our interns started using he came to us and said, can I use base 44? I was like, what's that? Oh my God, it's another one. And it's like, fine. But it had some really great benefits. And so they bring it to us. So just empowering people to do it, and everyone can really benefit from it.
Brilliant. Miz, thank you so much for your time. You definitely answered my question. Everyone, please do reach out to Mizan. A bunch of what he shared has been super insightful. Thank you, Miz. We will put all of your contact details in the show notes. Miz, thank you for being on The Human Loop.
It's been my pleasure. Hopefully see you soon, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Take care.